It's June 1st, and it's 2 o'clock, and so we're going to start our Cleveland City Board of Education meeting. And we're going to start with a moment of silence to pledge allegiance, led by our board member, Andy Lay. So everybody will stand.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if you join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our official business, but before we do, I'm going to make a few comments. As chairman for the Cleveland City Board of Education, I'm committed to running an orderly, efficient meeting. I am treating everyone with respect, and board members will provide equal voice for all matters and should communicate through the director of schools for addressing his staff. A couple reminders for parents and community that are here with us today. Board of Education policies can be found on our clevelandschools.org website. When there, if you click menu, select the policy manual under the Board of Education section, you'll see our policies. I want to point out that our meetings are not public forums. However, the board has made accommodations for you to address the board via School Board Policy 1.404, which includes two options along with the requirements listed. Those options being appearing before the school board via a pre-meeting request or addressing the board on agenda items via same-day request. All right. We have no public comment requested today, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And board, want to entertain a motion for...
Do you have one modification?
Yes, sir.
Field trip 1411 will not be part of the consent agenda, so we're going to that has been canceled. So if we could just strike trip number 1411.
So I want to entertain a motion minus trip 1411, which is canceled, for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It passes. Sorry about that. Just told me that. All right. So the next item on the agenda is our regular agenda, and we start with director's update. Dr. Dyer, turn it over to you.
First things first, as the teachers and people in this room know, school is out for the summer.
Yes.
Sort of. We'll get to that in a minute, but we do have the final day of school was last Thursday. Had a fantastic school year in so many different ways. Very proud of the work that's been accomplished. Our students, our staff. Great year. It was a lot of fun getting out and seeing some things. Can we go to the next slide for just a second, Dr. Raper? I know you got to probably go all the way down, making this difficult on you. Called an audible. These are just some of the end of the year pictures I was able to get going out and visiting a lot of different locations. And I'll tell you, the students had a lot of fun, and I think a lot of staff had a lot of fun too that last week with field days and various events that took place. So a lot of fun being out. Good to see our folks as they were getting ready to leave for summer. And I hope that our students and staff, regardless of what they do or where they go, if they stay in Cleveland, that everybody has a good, safe summer. We look forward to welcoming everybody back come August. Go back to this first one again. So just some end-of-the-year highlights. This year we ended the school year with around 5,589 students. It does vary day to day. So somewhere in that number, good, healthy number, we had a total of about 1,880 students that were enrolled in CTE courses total between the middle school and high school. This year we graduated 431 students with over $8 million in scholarships available for those kids that are going, I think it's over 40 different locations for post-secondary. So very proud of the work they're doing. School nutrition served over 1,220,216 meals this school year, which is incredible. If you think about the number of kids versus the number of people working back there, that's a lot of different meals going a lot of different directions. And our buses drove over 170,000 miles just in the school year alone. So a lot of things to be proud of. We have a lot of people that work really hard to make the magic happen, and very proud of everybody. Summer learning camps, it will be beginning on Monday at our elementary schools and middle school. Summer learning at the high school began this week. So for students that need to catch up on whatever they need to catch up on at the high school level, that's already underway. We have roughly 900 students that will be part of summer learning camps coming up starting next Monday. So that's a variety of different age groups for a variety of different reasons. But we're excited about that. That is a fun time. And we need to schedule probably a time for the board, whoever might want to go out and visit some of our summer learning camps. We'll look at that at some point in the month of June, and hopefully everybody can make that. It's a lot of fun to see what they're doing. Summer hiring is underway. Our huge HR department of 2 is right now busy in the recruitment stage of going out and trying to find the best of the best. And we're excited about that. It's always fun when you're bringing some new staff members in to the school system. We have opportunities available at schools and different departments. So I would just encourage anyone who might be interested to check our website. It's updated daily, and it has all of our openings as well as salary schedules and everything else they may want to know. So that's something that I want to make sure I call their attention to that part of it. Part of the reason we have some of those openings is because people in this room decided to retire on us, which we'll congratulate them in just a few moments. So that's my update for now.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. Any questions? All right. So next item on the agenda is Spotlight, and every month we do a Spotlight. And this is one of my favorite personally times of the year. The Spotlight's here in the month of June, and so we're looking forward to celebrating.
Absolutely. We are very fortunate today to have some of our folks that are, I'm going to say graduating, retiring, somewhere with our graduation too, that are retiring from Cleveland City Schools and moving on to other parts of what they're going to be doing, and we're very excited to have them, as well as our folks that are already enjoying vacation somewhere, to be celebrated today. It's a lot of fun to do this. Mr. Kaiser is going to come up and is going to tell a little bit more and read some names. I'm going to hand a certificate. We're going to take a picture. We'll let you know that you'll have a check that's coming, so it will be mailed to you at some point later this month. Is that correct? In July. So that'll be coming in July, so you'll be looking for that, and if you don't get it, call us. We'll make sure to get it to you. So
You're going to handle this from here?
I've received instructions to go behind.
I thought we'd probably received instructions. Well, there are a few people that are retiring this year. Those are the people in the room that have the biggest smiles on their faces. The rest of us will soldier on, and there are probably some other people that have retired that have even bigger smiles because they're not here and they're out enjoying their retirement today. But we're going to recognize everybody. We put together a little PowerPoint so you can see their face, along with a quote from their principal about each of our retiring staff members. And then, of course, the folks that are with us, we'll recognize them and have them come forward and get their certificate. So, Dr. Everett, you go ahead. The first retiree is Julie Shirer from Arnold Memorial Elementary. And this is a quote from Mr. Chai. Ms. Shirer has been a staple at Arnold over the last 20 years. She has coached teachers, led professional development, written curriculum, guided instruction, and played a vital role in student learning. We will miss her immensely at Arnold. So congratulations to Ms. Shirer. Our next retiree is Beth Fallon from Candies Creek Cherokee Elementary. A quote from Miss Irby about Miss Fallon is, Beth taught kindergartners at Candies Creek Cherokee since the day we opened our doors. She nurtured countless little minds, transformed chaos into laughter, and scribbles into masterpieces. We love watching her lay the foundation for the brightest futures. Her fun and flair will be missed. Kelly Nikayla is also a teacher at Candies Creek Cherokee Elementary School, and Miss Irby had this to say about her. Kelly Nikayla came to Candies Creek as part of the original staff teaching first graders. She brought wisdom and experience to the Red Hall and always had a funny story to tell. We wish her the best of luck on her next adventure. Melissa Adams is a retiree from Cleveland High School, and Mr. Pritchard had this to say about her. As a CTE teacher and an economics teacher, Melissa Adams has always worked hard to connect with her students and ensure they learn new content. We are so proud of Miss Adams and wish her the best in her retirement. Rebecca Davis at Cleveland High School. Ms. Davis has helped to develop and bring the cosmetology program to where it is today. She is so passionate about the program that she helped CHS find her replacement. We wish her well and a happy retirement. Ms. Rebecca McKenzie is retiring from Cleveland Middle School. Principal Nat Akiona had this to say about her. Ms. McKenzie is a team member and a faculty presence who will be sincerely missed around Cleveland Middle School. Ms. McKenzie was the core of the 7 Blue team, mentoring and melding several young teachers throughout the years to make a very cohesive and strong team. In the classroom, Ms. McKenzie had the ability to make every student feel special. Also from Cleveland Middle School, and definitely one of those people that's out enjoying her retirement, is Ms. Kelly Owens. Mr. Akiona had this to say about Ms. Owens. Ms. Owens represents the type of teacher that students remember for years. Every moment with students, whether in the classroom or during dance practice, was an opportunity for Ms. Owens to create memories and share life with others. And I believe Ms. Owens will be back helping us in some capacity, maybe not just in the classroom anymore. And now someone who is here, Mr. Jim Stansel from Cleveland Middle School. Mr. Akiona had this to say about Mr. Stansel. Mr. Stansel is a consummate educator. I have enjoyed working with him and appreciate his willingness to always be a team player. Thank you, Mr. Stansel. So congratulations, sir. Next up is Miss Jody Tillotson from E.L. Ross Elementary. Principal Stephanie Stone had this to say about Miss Tillotson. Jody Tillotson has impacted hundreds of students in her 31-year tenure as an educator. She is a gifted teacher who understands how children best learn. She will be missed in the Ross community when she retires. So congratulations, Miss Tillotson. Next up is Miss Diane Hunley from George R. Stewart Elementary. Principal Kim Bradford had this to say about Miss Hunley. Miss Hunley's impact on our school will have a positive ripple effect for years to come. Miss Hunley's smile, energy, and care for others have carried our school through many memorable years. Miss Hunley is an educator who is ready to celebrate with others at any given moment, and she exemplifies what it means to be a lifelong learner. Miss Hunley. Okay. We'll grab her in a second. She's good at that. And our last retiree, last but not least, of course, is Ted Carson from Yates Primary. Principal Carrie O'Connor had this to say about Coach Carson. Coach Carson dedicated 36 years of his career to the students and staff at Yates Primary. His love and passion for students is evident in the thousands of students and athletes he influenced along the way. His contagious smile and laughter will be missed here at Yates. We wish him a happy and exciting retirement.
Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
I hired Coach Carson.
I don't know what that says about how long you've been around. I have a picture of in Coach Carson's file of when he was first hired. It does not look like the same.
Well, retirees, congratulations. We certainly appreciate you coming today. You are welcome to stay the rest of the meeting, or you can travel on to whatever you have next. So we certainly appreciate you taking a few minutes to be with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, board next we have J.C. Bowman. Mr. Bowman is professional educators of Tennessee. He's executive director and CEO, and he has a presentation today that he wants to discuss.
First off, it's good to be home. I am from here, and my guidance counselor responsible for me is
right there.
Mr. Field, so I'd like to thank her. And I see, Ms. Reeves, you don't know me, but you know my father-in-law, Dr. Robert O'Bannon. I believe you know him well. And Miss Ingram, always still writing anything that makes you mad?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the school board. Thank you, Dr. Dyer, for allowing me to do this. Over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, there's been a teacher in your system by the name of Siva Bailey Schwartzel who keeps talking about her principal and how he does such an excellent job, how he's always there for his teachers, and does an incredible job. And so our organization is member-driven. So when our members send in nominations for who people that they do, we take it very seriously. We get a lot of requests and stuff like that. But over time, continuously, Michael Chai's name continues to come up. I want to go visit that. My dad actually attended Arnold way back in the years. I think back in 1930. I don't think you were there then. But anyway, so it's a remarkable opportunity for us to honor him. I can tell you about his accomplishments, but no man gets in that position is ever without the family that puts him there. So I know Cheryl, his wife, is actually probably, he says that she's right there. She substitute teaches as well. So she's there to support him in every step of the way. And I know that he's been there for a decade now. And so his son Christian is here as well. So a lot of times we forget that it's a family effort when you do business. And so it's our distinct honor as an organization that represents over 8,000 educators across the state of Tennessee to recognize Cleveland's own Arnold Memorial Elementary. So I guess they added the memorial. It's old, but Michael Chai. So thank you so much, sir, for your. Would you like to say? No.
Thank you. Congratulations. Appreciate it. On the spot.
If anyone knows, has been in the school, you know that I just played a very small role. I'm one of 50 people in the building, and it's the other 49 plus that deliver the mail on a daily basis. And so we could not be what we are at Arnold without all of the teachers and assistants that come in there on a daily basis who love kids. And so Ms. Schwartzel is part of that. And we are proud to serve our community. And we are proud to have the kids that come into the building, come into the doors and sit down because we're there for them. So I thank you so much, JC, for the honor. This is actually for our entire school and also for my understanding family who is they're so gracious to me when I come home and I'm like, I'm sorry I'm late. So thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is our strategic communications plan.
Yes, Caroline Corrigan is going to come up and share that with us today.
I believe y'all all got a copy of it at your seat. But this is the 1-year strategic communication plan for Cleveland City Schools. If you go to the next slide, we have the vision and mission. Our vision is to inspire and educate thriving and confident students who become exceptional life learners and contributing citizens in their community. Our mission is to educate and equip students with the academic, social, and emotional skills necessary to be successful and productive. Now, just to tell you a little bit about this plan, this is really focused on providing a clear and concise plan sorry, I'm not that tall, for how we took a lot of feedback, and we took the decisions and recommendations from the communication audit and put it in this plan, and we are hoping to get as much done as we can in the next year. So that is what this is for. If you go to the next slide, as many of y'all know, last year we partnered with the National School Public Relations Association to conduct a communication audit. They reviewed our district materials, our district-wide communication survey, a focus group with key stakeholders such as parents, staff members, teachers, business leaders, and even some of our community members. After this 6-month-long process, these are a couple of the recommendations they recommended to us. So first and foremost, they suggested we develop a strategic communication plan. They suggested we develop and implement strategies to keep staff members informed and engaged, update and improve navigation on the district website, develop a robust crisis communication plan, increase methods for effectively reaching non-English speakers, expand and enhance Board of Education communications, expand opportunities for community engagement, and continue to refine the district's social media presence and engage more stakeholders. And this was the result of a scope survey we sent out to staff, parents, and family just on our communication at the time. Something to keep in mind, this survey was sent back in September, so this was the feedback they gave us then. And this were some of the strengths and challenges that we found with those focus groups that we interviewed back in September. Some of the strengths were that students are placed front and center in Cleveland City Schools. A lot of people said they felt a strong feeling of community spirit, strong academic options being offered, diversity of the student body was seen as a strength. Employees appreciate the family atmosphere and collaboration among peers, and that the communication coordinator was making strides. Some of the challenges that we heard about in September was that there tends to be a lack of information about district finances and board decisions. Parents expressed concerns about some last-minute notifications. Parents and staff members also shared that they were confused by the number of apps and tools used across schools, that it wasn't unified. A lot of different schools were using different types of methods for communicating with their families, and they felt a little overwhelmed by that. They also suggested that the website be improved and that there were still challenges with non-English speaking families. And then we had a community engagement lunch with families in April, which was really nice because a lot of that feedback we received in September we took and started making changes quickly to try to improve it. And these were some of the strengths and challenges from this meeting that we had with our parents. And they expressed satisfaction regarding communication about serious events such as weather delays and emergencies. Many parents during that meeting told me they felt that the district and schools almost over-communicated for days like that, so they were really satisfied with that. And parents also felt like the district and school leaders had their students' best interests at heart. And challenges were that parents continued to voice concerns about those apps. Some parents expressed frustration with the lack of follow-up on the school level, and that parents wanted to still see the website updated, and they also wanted to see athletic events and games visible on the website. So lots of feedback. What was the timeline of this? So September of last year, we started that communication audit. We received the recommendations in January, and in March we started the communication committee and task force to try to figure out the best plan moving forward. In May, I'm presenting this. I presented the final draft of strategic communication to our district administrators. In June, here we are today. So after reviewing this feedback and recommendations from the audit, these were the 4 big strategic goals we set for the upcoming school year. Number 1 being crisis communication, digital communication, internal communication, and external communication. These were the estimated additional costs. So we felt that it was really important to unify that communication instead of having, 7 to 9 different apps and ways for parents to communicate. Our school has an add-on that allows teachers and staff members to send one-way and two-way messages to our families that will translate immediately. And then the family could respond in their language, and that would translate back in English to that teacher. So I'm really grateful that Arnold and Stewart will be a part of our pilot program in August. It's really exciting. So that will start in August. And then if everything goes well, January, we will have that for the district. And then something else we really noticed across the schools this past year is that not only does the district website need to be updated, but, the individual schools' websites need to be updated as well. So we decided to put a web and social media stipend for each individual schools so that we could really have a point person for who was in charge in updating that. And Al Morris is part of this section, the athletic website and app for CHS and CMS. That's really exciting. He's working on that this summer. It's going to be really, really exciting. We're going to link that to our page so that it'll be at the very top. So that's really exciting. So our first goal being crisis communication, it was suggested that we improve our current crisis communication, schedule some feedback meetings with principals, and gain some insight into some challenges. And the crisis communication plan should really identify roles, responsibilities, methods of communication, and communication processes in the event of an emergency. We also need to evaluate and update the information on the school's safety page on the district website, which I've done recently. I've also made that visible on each individual school's website. So if you go to any school right now, there is a big school safety button on that home page of that website. I thought that was very important. Also provide ongoing training for students and staff on how to recognize the sign of safety concerns and maintain and strengthen relationships with local agencies and emergency response teams. Our second goal being digital communication, provide training to staff members regarding best public relations, regarding media and news and social media practices. The internet, social media technology is not going away, so we best to stay front on that. Also work with our website provider to complete a redesign of the district website, which is going on right now. If you have visited the website recently, you will notice the layout is completely different. So it's a work in progress throughout this summer, but it's going really good so far. So that's really exciting. The goal is to have the district and each school website completely updated for August when kids come back to school. Also meet with those digital teams from individual schools to improve communication on the website and social media pages throughout the year so that we'll really have a point person and maybe quarterly meetings to ensure that the website's getting updated with correct information. So our third goal was internal communication. A couple of these things I've already put in place. I have started a weekly email for all district employees regarding just important updates across the district. Also, I have started a school board meeting recap to all employees across the district. So that includes pretty detailed notes regarding what happened at the school board meeting, what they can expect, and dates for the next school board meeting. And so far I've gotten a lot of good feedback from that. I believe I've even started sending y'all those recaps as well. I also plan on conducting internal surveys and questionnaires through Thought Exchange to receive feedback from staff as well as our families. We've been using Thought Exchange already, and it's been a an amazing tool for receiving feedback from our families and staff, so that's really exciting. Also evaluate the current communication plans from the district to schools and schools to staff. And then our fourth goal being external communication, create informational marketing materials for the website, staff, and board members. If you have seen our front desk lately, you would have seen that there's an infographic with just a couple of quick facts about Cleveland City Schools. You know, this time last year we had a lot of people come in from out of state, moving in, so that's just an easy way for someone new in the area to grab a quick graphic and learn about our school district. In August, Cleveland City Schools will launch that pilot program with Power School Unified Communication Operations at Arnold and Stewart. So that will be a really, really helpful tool, especially with our non-English speaking families, that the teachers will be able to immediately communicate with those families, regardless of that language barrier. Also expand and enhance Board of Education communications and decisions. It's been suggested that I take that recap email and turn it into an informational article for the website after board meetings. And then continue to improve communication with non-English speaking families. In August, every single school will have a device that translates communication with families immediately. That's also on our front desk, and that's a really, really awesome tool. Our secretary has been really successful with communicating with families for that. So yeah, any questions?
On your survey, how much participation did you have in that?
Which one?
I also did communications audit, I think it's page 5, the scope survey.
Yes. So I believe, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know parents and families was more than 400, and then I believe the staff was around the same amount. Community was a big challenge because it's really hard to find people who are not connected to the school system. That was about 50 people.
I just had a comment. Thanks for the work you've done here. I especially can say that many will appreciate the mobile app for athletics because it is a nightmare trying to find the games and the results of those games, and I think that's going to be a huge win for us communicating about athletics. So thank you.
I had a question about the translating device. Is that something they can use on the phone, or does it just have to be person to person?
For each individual school. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a device that sits at the front office, and the family could press a button, speak into it, and that would translate into English on the other side to the secretary. So that isn't a device on your phone or computer, it's its own device that sits on.
You have to be there in person.
Yes. Yes. Okay. But it saves the trip from, the Denning Center, and so that's helpful.
That'd be very helpful.
The cost, that's something that's you've already included in our budget so far.
Yes, general fund.
Right. So we would need a motion to approve the plan for this coming year. The funds that are identified in here are either paid out of the original budget that was approved or in the amendment that I'm bringing actually next on here. So that's where that's coming in today.
Are there any more questions for Caroline? Comments? All right, so we'd like to entertain a motion. I'm assuming this is a recommendation from Dr. Dyer. So, a second? Second? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. No. All right, passes 100%.
Congratulations.
All right, the next item on the agenda is budget revisions.
Okay. Board, we talked about this during the work session today. As mentioned earlier, additional funds have been identified through our state's TISA formula that will be coming to Cleveland City Schools, as well as additional local funding that's going to be coming to our district. With that change, it looks like we'll have an additional funds to be budgeted currently of $3,845,384. So we have provided a list of recommendations. We went through that in our work session today. That is on our agenda for anyone in the public who can go in and see that. A lot of what is in there is based on recommendations from school leaders that will help them do their jobs better. That provides extra counselors for schools. Really helps, I think, do a lot of things and move initiatives forward that have been identified as needs in our district. So I am recommending both the amendment funding increase that's recommended here, as well as part of this, 2 new job descriptions, which include two full-time bus drivers, and you'll also see a job description for a board-certified behavior analyst that will be specifically working with students with autism. So those are 2 new job descriptions you would need to approve. However you want to make that motion, we can work that either way. So that's my recommendation, that we accept the budget amendment and job descriptions.
All right, so what's your pleasure for the budget amendment? Do you want to wrap the job descriptions in that? Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion for the budget, accepting the budget amendment with the job descriptions. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it passes 100%. All right, the next item on the agenda is the first reading of policies. Policies will be discussed by Jody Ricketts.
Oh, by now.
I'll take it over this time. Let me start with some of the easier ones, and then we'll deal with the other ones we may have a little bit more debate on. Pull these up. Look at 6. We can do the 6.5, 6 or 6. Yeah, that is. Thank you. Can you scroll down a bit? Should we get that? So this is one that we have passed on the last couple of board meetings, and the board will remember a lot of discussions we've had about it as to where and to what extent some of these ethics policies are duplicated in other areas. And I think ultimately what we had done is striking number 7 and cross-referencing that to the policy that's already addressed in other areas. And any other questions on that one? We haven't made that change, I've seen.
No, we have not. So what you would need to do is make a motion, as you just did. Then we can go back as staff, edit this, and then bring it back for a second reading in August, and those changes will be listed there.
Okay. You want me to do them all at once? Does anyone have a preference? Or do you want to just do this one?
Let's do them one by one. Okay. Just to be clear. All right. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the policy 5.611 with a reference to several other policies, but also striking number 7. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Passes.
The next one I have was 6.5, but did we do that in the second reading?
Mm-hmm.
The special education?
That was second reading.
Okay. All right. So 6.3, which is corporal punishment. What we had done, this was on the code of conduct, and the board may recall at our last meeting we struck the corporal punishment issue from our policies, and ultimately this was the amended policy where essentially the language right there it is, allowing corporal punishment as one of the options, has just been stricken. That's the only change with this policy. Any questions of me in that? I think it's fairly straightforward. And if not, that'd be a motion to approve it with that change.
Okay. So we have policy 6.3, code of conduct, for consideration. There is a motion. Is there a second? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Passes.
The next and last group is the policies related to 6.4. and 3 policies with that, 6.41, 6, and 7, dealing with promoting student welfare. And the question that we have been debating on this is whether we allow these 6.401, 6.406, and 6.407 to be moved to a procedure and remove them from the policies, and allowing 6.4 simply to, can you open that one up, 6.4? To allow the reference to those procedures that would be managed by the school. What questions or discussion do we want to have, or is this something, my feeling on going through them is that each of those, if we're going to transfer them from a policy to a procedure, we ought to look at them one at a particular time and kind of have that debate whether there's language in there that we feel is appropriate to keep as a policy, and it may be something that we take up on a half-day get together, that we might have a retreat or something to discuss each of those. So with that being said, what questions might the board have or others about how we approach those?
What's your pleasure?
I think we need to look at them a little bit more and talk about them and study them.
If that was a motion, I would second it.
I love that motion.
So are you making a motion that we remove this from the agenda and discuss it further at a later time?
Bring it back later after we have some more discussion.
Are you talking about once they move to procedure, or are you talking about looking at them as policy again?
Looking them at policy.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
What are we looking at in terms of policy again?
Well, I just feel that these are so important that rather than them being a procedure, that we look at them and see if there's things that we want to strike from them or if we want to add. Just, what, I just think rather than turning them into procedure immediately.
If we voted to pass them as policies, would you be okay with them as they are? Or are you saying we need to review them to be able to pass them as policies?
I just think that they need to be looked at further.
I think that they're policies already right now. We're just removing them from the I think the issue on the table is whether we remove them as policies and make them procedures. And so my feeling would be if we popped up 6.401 as just an example, I think that what we ought to do then is just sit down as a group and go through line by that and say, is this something that we want to give up that oversight on, that regular periodic oversight? If that's something we want to do at a board meeting and kind of go through that line by line, I think that's fine. Or if we want to do that on a retreat and see if there's anything in there that might be,
or even as a work session.
Can we do that today at the board meeting? Because this is the second time. This has already been tabled twice. And so if we're tabling it again, when are we going to make that decision? So can we look at those today and more closely, line by line, and be able to vote on this today and get that decided?
So there is a motion on the table to remove these, and so in order for us to do that, you need to withdraw your motion. You have to agree with that as well.
My feeling on it, I don't know if there's an urgency within the school because the policies already exist. So I don't think this is something that should be rushed through, personally.
Do you have something?
Well, I had some time during our break after some work sessions this year to kind of think about this a little bit more. And honestly, I think the district's point of view would be fine with keeping these truly as is in policy I don't see that it's vitally important that we move these two procedures. We talked about these Monday at our staff meeting. We had the folks that are involved in student health way more than I am give input into this. And I think from our point of view, the policy has served us well. I think we're in good shape. I think we're fine moving forward with keeping it basically, just leave it alone at this point, and talking to the people that are involved. I think it's a discussion to have down the road about policies and procedures. But as far as these go, I think we're fine. Honestly, just leaving it as is. And I think that would be my recommendation to you at this point, is leave these as policies and move forward with other business.
So my concern is, rather than immediately turning them into procedures, to either keep them as a policy or studying them further.
Right.
That's fine.
And if we're just looking at the procedure, I got no issue with it. Was there any of these that were, and I'm going back to 6.400, that's a 6.400 is a change from what it previously was. Is that accurate?
That would be a change. Dr. Earl, you want to come to the microphone?
Basically, the school counseling services is addressed in that 6.400 originally, and then this is promoting student welfare, and that's the overarching pieces that tie it to those other pieces that would be procedures. So if you maintain, and the other policies that are up here for the vote was to strike those so that it would be procedures. But if you don't act on those, then they would remain as the policy.
Right. So basically, if we're going to leave those as policies, you would not need to approve this, and then school counseling would remain 6.400.
Yeah, and the others would remain in place as well. So basically, 6.400, 401, 406, and 407, you wouldn't have to act on, and they would remain as they are.
And then what I would love to do is, when we have our next retreat, one of us kind of have that as one of our little agenda items and maybe have a wish list from what the board or from what the school administrators think would be good policies for us to move over into that direction.
Right. So I think we would be fine if the board approves just to leave 6.400, don't do anything with this policy, just leave things alone as they are, and we would basically just strike these, and they would not be on future agendas unless the board chooses to take that up some other time.
Okay, so we still have a motion on the floor.
Would you like to amend your motion?
No. So we have a motion on the floor to withdraw these and talk about them further. Okay, you have two options. You can withdraw it, your motion, or you can amend it. And then, Matthew, you have to agree.
I think what we're thinking is amending it to say that we're going to keep them as policies.
Yes, that's what.
Yeah.
All right. So the motion is on the floor, amended to keep these as policies, and they're in agreement with that. Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It passes. So the natural next step would be second reading, since these are first reading. Okay.
Well, on the ones that you just voted on, there would be no extra readings because they would stay exactly as they are. So it would just be the other two.
The other two are for second reading. Yes. All right. So next item on the agenda is Summer Learning Camps update, third grade literacy update.
So before we talk about summer camps, Adam's going to come up and tell us about some great things, and I want to reiterate, we'd love for you guys to come visit. We've got almost 1,000, which we'll show you the numbers in a minute, in summer camps this summer, so including the high school. So there's a large number of students. We'd love for you to come by and visit, and I'm going to let Adam talk about that in a minute. But before I do, I just wanted to kind of give you a review of our third grade literacy actions and the things that we've done this school year. And then I'm going to talk about some of the results that we know thus far. And a lot of this is raw data. We try to get it as close as possible, but it's obviously raw data, so we'll be working through that as we go. So here is the review, just to kind of get us all up to speed. The Literacy Act is around below expectations and approaching expectations. Not to get in the weeds too deep, but when we look at proficiency levels, there's 4, and 2 of those are above expectation, 2 are below expectation. So there's a below and an approaching, and then there's the proficiency level. So there are 2 levels that are below expectation, and those students who qualify for below expectation on their third grade ELA TCAP are required to attend summer school and high dosage tutoring, which we talked about this fall. The fall predictions, which we'll talk about where those came from in a few minutes, but the fall predictions, we had 164 students who were predicted to fall at the below level, so at the lowest level of proficiency, if you will. Our actual spring score landed just around 30 less than that. So we had 30 students who moved up a proficiency level, which is really great progress for those students. It takes that and to an or, as you see in the next statement. So we're really proud of that work of moving those 30 students up. Approaching expectations are the same interventions, but you notice the word changes from and to or. So they will either be required to attend summer school or high dosage tutoring. Our fall predictions were 136. Our actual spring score is 150. However, let's not be alarmed, because that includes the 30 that were bumped up a level. So those 15 additional students actually scored worse last year. So last year. So we're actually seeing an improvement there, and then we actually had some that moved into the proficiency level. So that's a good thing that number went up a little bit, as long as the below number went down. So we're really proud of that work. So just as a review, we came to you this fall and talked to you a little bit about our general education intervention. It's the GEI plan. This is actually not a new plan. Ms. Bender and Dr. Elliott worked on this many years ago, and it's been part of our procedures for a while that any teacher can use or principal as a general education intervention. We took it to principals and we reviewed it at the district level to kind of make it a little more user-friendly for this process. And so what it is a plan where you review data and then come up with action steps for individual students, not schools, not grade levels. It is a one-on-one plan for individual students who are at risk. Before we could write those plans, though, we had to come up with a list of at-risk students. And so we compiled a list of at-risk students that was based on their second grade TCAP score. So that's where we got those original numbers that I showed you, that the fall predictions. We used the second grade TCAP scores. We met with principals and the GEI leader in their building to review that list, make sure it was current, that we had all of the students were enrolled, make sure that there were not any weird situations or that we had some coding issues. And then those teams then went and met with the families of every at-risk student on their list. And that was in September, and they at that time communicated the new law and the expectations and interventions that the school would be providing during the school year. So then throughout the school year, there were additional exemptions like an IEP or English language services. Students moved in, students moved out. Mr. Moss, I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there, was incredible on the end of data and just updating and meeting with those GEI folks regularly to make sure that we had the most accurate information. So when the time came, we would be able to communicate effectively. And he just did a phenomenal job, and then our schools did a phenomenal job of being able to keep that updated. And then after the fall meeting in September, then our GEI and school team then followed up with those families in February to review their data. So then they had some iReady data, they had their screener data, and we were able to, and then just obvious classroom data, and they were able to go through that to see if the interventions they were doing were actually working, or if the data showed us that maybe we needed to ramp up right before TCAP. And so there were interventions to small groups within the school day. They did some Fridays where they did some additional work and prepping for the TCAP. There was just a lot of individual attention and interventions for those students that were at risk. And I think our ultimate goal when meeting with school leaders and as a district was we did not want any student or any parent surprised. We didn't want to, I always said as a high school principal, I never wanted to make a phone call on a Tuesday that a student wasn't going to walk in graduation on Friday and that be the first time they had heard that. I wanted to make sure that we had communicated well and said these are the things we need to be doing, these are the things we need to be doing, and we kind of approached that in the same way. We wanted to make sure that parents were aware and knew what they could do in order to assist the school in assisting their students. So the next piece comes to May, and we've been busy in May. When I say we, I mean he. Been very busy, but we've worked really hard, and Michael Kars has been just a tremendous asset to Miss Bender and myself and Adam Moss as we've worked through this. So in May, our at-risk list was reviewed with school teams early in May to make sure we still had those current exemptions. Our WIDA scores came in the first week of May, and that made some students' exemptions status change, so we wanted to make sure that was up to date. We made sure they were enrolled if they had a 504 or an IEP, and we also had some indicators that could allow them to be eligible for an appeal. So we put that flag on there so we could be watching for that, and so we made sure that those lists were correct at the school level. On May 19th, our TCAP scores arrived in raw form. We were able to communicate. It was communicated with the families from a mass communication through a thrill share to let them know that their proficiency status. So they were informed if they were proficient, they were informed if they were exempt, and they were informed if they were not proficient. And the mass communication stated that their schools would follow up with them with individual and personalized information. May 24th, the retest scores were finalized, so we were able to give a retest, and we had 16 students who retested and passed, so they had no further intervention. So we thought that was really great. And Blythe Bauer, I'll just mention, Blythe Bauer had I think 7 or 8, so we were really proud of that. That was a really great number for them. And so those retest scores were finalized, and again, that mass communication came from the district level to let them know their proficiency status and again give that summer learning camp information. And then the schools this week have followed up and communicating with those families directly to make sure they are enrolled for summer school. We just got an email about a couple of students that are still not enrolled, and we were communicating with the principal to make sure we know, that they know that they're not enrolled. There were some different circumstances that we're working through there, and so we really tried to over-communicate to make sure that our families are not surprised. And another thing that came out this week was about appeals, and so we wanted to make sure that we not only sent a mass communication about appeals, but that principals touched base with those families and assisted them if they needed to appeal, because the appeal does have to be initiated by the parent. We had, I think, 6 or 7 non-English speaking families, so we had our translator, our district translator, actually meet with them and help them go through that appeals process to assist them so that we knew that they had that information that they needed as well. And so then I'm just going to share some great numbers. So in our, again, these are all raw scores, so when we get everything fleshed out, we'll have some more official information. But as of right now, we have 153 that are proficient. We're thinking somewhere between 3 or 4% increase from last year's third grade ELA score. So we're really proud of that growth. And then that also includes 16 past retakes. So we were really glad that we were able to offer that retake efficiently, and that we had students who benefited from being able to take that. We had 165 exemptions. And that's something I think I have to wrap my brain around a lot too. Like, we serve a very diverse population, and I think that's something that we're continually reminded of. But just as a reminder of exemptions, that is 165 students who have a disability in reading in the third grade. Not like a deficiency, or maybe they're not proficient, but that is students who have an identified disability in reading for an IEP or a 504, or a student who is a language learner, an ELL student that receives language services. There were, I don't think, less than a handful of previously retained. So the majority of those 165 students are suspected of a disability with an IEP or a 504 or a language learning student.
Since they are exempt, but the parents want them to participate in the summer program?
100%. They're welcome.
Can.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Even for parent appeals, they're still eligible for summer and for tutoring.
That's great. Okay.
Okay. And not just welcome, but encouraged, because it really is. It's about addressing learning loss. So we want to make sure that those things are available to students so that we can fill that gap. So we then also have 57 students who are eligible for appeals. The appeal process is those students scored approaching, so they were in that level just below proficient. And we showed local data that showed they were above the 40th percentile with our benchmarking system. We had 57 students who applied for that, or that didn't apply, that were eligible for that appeal, and we are getting weekly updates. We expect our first one on Monday of how many have actually applied, but we all have been informed, so we have a total of 57 that were eligible. And that closes at the end of June, so we'll know for sure by the end of June how many there were. So, if you take all of those numbers at the beginning of the school year, if you take those two categories that we mentioned, we started with around 290 students who were on our at-risk list. And if everyone who is eligible for an appeal applies and is approved, we will be left with 61 students who will need intervention. This is remarkable. I actually just got a little goosebumpy because this is remarkable work at our school level. And we say that all the time. And like Mr. Chai, when he was speaking about his teachers, it is just so true. And I think our teachers do such incredible work, and they are the heroes in this business. And our students, we can't forget, this actually represents some really hard work by our kids. And so just couldn't be more thrilled with the work that our schools have done to be able to really intervene on a really life-changing possibility. Those students were able to not just keep them from retention, which is important, but those kind of things matter to me, but they don't as much as we want to make sure that they can be successful in school, and we're equipping them with the tools so that they can move forward, not just that they do move forward, but that we are improving their proficiency. So that's something we're really excited about. And then I'm going to hand over summer learning, but before I do, I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions about what we've done so far.
Yes. So going back to your comment about parents not enrolling their students, do we have a high number there?
Parents not enrolling in summer camp?
Yeah.
We actually did not. We had a list, of course, there were some, but when we were going through the list of those parents, those students who, even before we knew who those students were officially, a lot of those students had enrolled. So we still have some that have not, but when we went through that list, we felt good about, oh wow, well they're already enrolled and they've already registered. And the other part about it is approaching students don't have to attend summer school. So what we want to make sure is that all of our below students are in there this summer, and that's one thing we're going to be looking at next week.
And that's the number that I'm talking about.
Yes, so we're going to be looking at that Monday and Tuesday. That's the first list that we're going to be going over is what students were in that below category that are not there. And Adam and his team will be making phone calls and making sure they're not coming, and then it moves over to Ms. Bender, and Adam and I are going to have to be looking at, okay, where do we go from here? We'll probably be following up with phone calls and then have conversations about that retention piece.
So in that group, if they do not, how does it affect the kid? If the parent doesn't take action?
If you look at that 130 students, if those 130 students do not attend summer school, then they would be retained. If they're not, that appeal, that 130 also includes no, it doesn't include the appeals, but there's 130 belows, and if those 130 do not, but we feel really good about the registrations that we have and the communication that we've done, so we know that it will not be that high. We know that it will not be that high, for sure.
There was a lot of talk about this being kind of COVID while students were home during that window of time, resulting in poor reading for these kids. And we're seeing a good change in a positive direction. Is there a projection, if we could look at for next year on this continued?
We will have that. We have some initial some initial data. Yates had a really great year in second grade. I just remember that one standing out. I'm sure some of the other schools did too, but we saw some really good data from Yates for second grade. But we will have that and we'll know, and that's actually one of the areas that Adam and I will be talking through as far as next year, looking ahead to second grade and maybe putting some of these really critical second graders on a GEI plan, so we kind of get ahead of that ball game. But we feel good about the work we've done, and our second grade numbers, just at a glance, looked good. I didn't see anything that went, oh my God, we're going to have a tidal wave. I did look at the data and think, oh gosh, okay, we're at least prepared for this piece. It didn't seem like it was a huge, overwhelming piece. Any other questions? Okay.
We are very excited for summer learning here in Cleveland City Schools, not just for third graders, but truly running the whole spectrum from kindergarten all the way up through high school. Cleveland High School has always run a traditional summer credit recovery program, and last year we began a new initiative for the rising ninth graders, the eighth graders who are going to their freshman year. We began a program called Raider Excel. We had 22 students last year who earned 4 high school credits by working in the summertime before they even walked in the door. 2 are electives, 2 are graduation requirements. This year that number has doubled. We have 45 students who started this week at Rising Ninth Grader program. Very exciting, very successful. We've been planning since November for our Cleveland Middle School Survivor Camp for Rising 4 through 8. We have 450 students who start on Monday for 16 days of lots of fun. We are very well staffed. We are anticipating our third grade numbers, and we have really good ratios. Every class has about 10 to 12 students, so you have really good instruction. And every teacher has an assistant, so that your ratios are even stronger for small group instruction. Around Easter, we got some great news from the state that we are receiving additional funding to then offer a K-2 program. So we quickly worked together to get students and teachers in place, and we're happy to have that at Katie's Creek. We have 200 students on deck and a short wait list of students who'd love to come if space becomes available. And we are serving, about 900 students. We would love to have you come by and spend some time in our buildings, not just for a tour, but come sit in on a lesson, have lunch with the kids. Pick a day, pick a time, we'll make it happen. What questions can I answer for you about summer?
What's the dates on your camps? Are they all 4 groups running the same dates?
Just about. High school runs a little bit longer for their credit, so they've already started. But all of our programs are going to run starting Monday through the rest of June, Monday through Thursday. Doors open for students at 8:30 at Cleveland Middle and Katie's Creek, and we'll dismiss at 3:30. The high school doors open at 7:30. They dismiss at 2:30.
And you had mentioned something about a list. I just wanted to clarify there. That is a waiting list. It's full.
We have a short waiting list for K2 because it was such a last-minute funding source. We had to really work to get great teachers on board, and we did not want to stack those classes of 20, 25 kids. So we set our ratios based on the staff we were able to get, and then once those classes were full, we started our wait list, and we anticipate inviting those students as space becomes available.
Is transportation for these students?
We have an amazing transportation department. We have 12 wonderful summer drivers who are already running their high school routes. They are picking up our elementary students as well. And we were very excited that every student who needs transportation has transportation.
So there's no excuse for people not to be able to be there.
Right. We've communicated well in advance and over again all of the things that they need in person and mass to get them on deck.
Right.
And we're feeding them. The YMCA, free breakfast, free lunch, transportation. Lots of fun, lots of learning. It's going to be good. What other questions can I answer for you? Okay, just let me know if you'd like to come by. We'll schedule that for you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right, the next item on the agenda is strategic plan focus.
And Dr. Rayford's going to go.
I'm going to pass the devices around. I'm going to talk about them in a second. But this is the teacher device we're currently handing out, and this is the CMS device that will get handed out this fall.
You said they keep that?
So, good afternoon, Board. I'm excited to talk to you about all the things that are happening in technology and innovation for Cleveland City Schools. And now go to the next slide. Thanks for running slides for me now. Just a quick update on our technology strategic plan. So, per the timeline we set for ourselves, Goal 1, access point upgrades are complete. So all 550 access points in Cleveland City Schools have been upgraded to the latest technology, putting wireless in. I was actually in a meeting with tech directors about a month ago, and they're like, has anybody installed Wi-Fi 6 yet? And I raised my hand and looked around, and nobody else did, and a couple people laughed and said, of course Cody has. But so we have the latest technology. We're getting, most importantly, fantastic feedback from teachers. Teachers where we had difficult areas where maybe specifically a place in the high school where there's very thin walls, and so we have a lot of students trying to connect in one place. We're consistently having issues. Those have, as far as I know, all gone away. And so our students are able to connect better, teachers are able to connect better, which is the goal there. We have also rolled out multi-factor authentication to all Google accounts. And so we're happy for that. It adds another layer of protection. Our Power School is protected by Google. And so in order to get into Power School, you have to have a password plus that multi-factor authentication. We still have a little bit of work to do on some service accounts on the back end that we plan on working on this summer.
Hey, Cody, before you move on, can you explain what MFA means so everybody knows?
Sure. So whenever you try to log in, it's the idea of multi-factor authentication is something you know and something you have. So in this case, something you know being your password, and then we all know that that is very easily compromised because we tend to use the same passwords across multiple services. And I would be willing to bet you $1,000 that if you use the password on more than 5 websites, it's out there somewhere. So we use the same passwords, and then so they're easily compromised. And then we need to protect that student data. We talked about in the work session, the student one student record can be worth $50 to $80. And so multi-factor authentication, something you know and something you have. Something you know being your password, and then something you have generally being a code that you can get text to your phone, or a prompt within a Google app in this case that you say, yes, this is me trying to sign in. And so it makes it not impossible, but much harder to sign in if you're not the actual person that you're claiming to be. And then goal 11, non-certified staff training. Academics has been key in helping us with this, but we identified that our staff who are non-certified teachers are not getting adequate training in different technology suites. And so we began this process, and they had a full day of tech training earlier this year. So what's next for the technology strategic plan? We have to get a group together that is going to vet apps, and by apps I actually mean websites where we upload student data to. The ones we do from a district we've already vetted, but at this point we're putting it off on teachers to say, yes, this site is okay to use in my classroom, this site is okay to give student names to. And that's something we as a district really want to take on and say, okay, we're going to pre-vet these. Don't utilize any apps in your classroom that haven't been pre-vetted to make sure that we're keeping our student data safe. Any questions about that? Okay. So something I'm very excited about, the iPad is getting passed around. Cleveland Middle School is getting iPads for this fall for all their students. It is a little bit earlier than was intended, and there were a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we took a group of teachers and administrators, Natalie Fiona went, to see iPads in use in elementary schools and middle schools, and the teachers came back really energized, like, I want this. So there was a need, a desire. It was also a great market condition, and it was a good time to sell. So recognizing that prices would only decrease, now is a good time to go ahead and do that. And then finally, our devices are still covered by warranty, so any devices that were blemished, we were able to get repaired so we can get top dollar trade-in for it. If it's okay, is it okay if I ask Nat if he has, Nat, do you have any thoughts or?
Sure. So some of the things that we noticed when we went to Collierville and the other schools in that area were the ways that teachers were using these and the accessibility that students had. There were some really interesting things being learned, and students were responding similarly as ours could on their MacBooks, but this also gave them touch capability. So there was a lot more creativity they could actually do. One of the projects that I saw that really stood out to me was during Black History Month. The students selected an African American person that they wanted to kind of get more information about, and they did a line art. So basically, they took a picture and they just went around the individual and made a picture of that photo, and then they would voice over the person's background and their history and what they did that was significant, and would actually create this movie where you've probably seen it in churches and everything, where there's some sort of sketching that occurs and there's voiceover underneath that. And I was watching the sixth grader do that, and it was really unique way to, and they had to write their own material and everything. The thing that sold it for me was the number of damages that they had of that device as compared to our devices. About a week ago, we set off, as Dr. Raper identified, we were able to capitalize on the Apple Care program. We sent in 200 damages last week of devices.
We're at about a 40% damage rate for MacBooks.
And when I talked to what would be the equivalent of their blade coordinator at this middle school, I'm like, how many damages are you guys processing? Is like 6 a month. And I was like, that's Tuesday for us. So, and the cost comparison of repair it just makes sense. So we can do the same features on that device we did for that device, but the repair cost is so much lower, the initial cost is so much lower, and the market condition Dr. Raper identified, it made a lot of sense.
One of the most compelling things I saw while I was there, I walked into a math classroom, and the teacher had every student's screen pulled up for every iPad. And to be clear, that's something we can do on MacBooks. But the difference here was they were working their problems live, because you can write on the screens. And so the teacher was like, hey, Johnny, you missed a step on this, do this. And she was able to formatively tell the student, here's what you're getting wrong as they're actually doing those things. And I think that's where technology can really transform the learning process. One of the concerns I often hear is, how do we do testing? How do we type? So this is the actual case that the students will get. It's a full QWERTY keyboard. Shouldn't have any issues with typing or testing. And then it also has a trackpad, so they can move around with a mouse. So they can use it a lot like a traditional device. And actually, if you go to the next screen really fast. So there's several different ways it can be used. So it can be stood up like a laptop. It can be folded under, so we're just looking at the screen. It can be held where we're able to carry it around. It can go into I forget what mode it's called. It's like anyway, it can go into like a drafting mode where you can easily draw and things like that. Yeah. So we tested it with the device we're buying with all the current educational apps. And everything we currently do is available, but it adds a whole lot more functionalities because the students can interact with it. And one thing we consistently saw is when the students were able to touch the device, they were much more engaged with it than whenever they were using it as a laptop. We actually went to a school that had MacBooks and iPads side by side, and the iPads, the students were much more engaged. Any questions about the iPads at CMS? Okay, so 2 slides forward. We are also refreshing the teacher devices. This is the device I've been carrying around for my personal, not this one, but one just like this for about 8 months. And I'm really excited teachers are getting this in their hands. It's the latest processors from Apple. It's the M2 chip. So a lot of design work for programs is going into that. It's also bringing back MagSafe chargers, which means you can just kind of stick the charger up to it. It's magnetic. One of the biggest ways our laptops are damaged are by kicking the cord. And so on these, it just demagnetizes. Something I've heard from a lot of teachers is, I know how to use my current device. This is going to function just the same. So there'll be low transferability from going from one device to another. And we did give teachers the opportunity to purchase their current device if they wanted, and some are taking advantage of that. And we began refreshes this morning, so this device is in teachers' hands. Questions about that?
All teachers or select teachers?
All certified teachers are getting this laptop. Some have completed the refresh, but not all won't finish it until next week.
Good question.
Oh, yes.
There's always a debate between Apple and Windows and all that goes along with that. And our office is exclusively, Windows-based. What kind of word processing? I mean, are the students working with what word processing programs are they coming out with an education on from here?
So we still maintain a Microsoft Office 365 license. So every student and staff member has access to that. Although by and large, almost exclusively we're using Google Docs. The compatibility with the Office suite is there, and more importantly, the collaboration is there, and it's a lower barrier to entry. So most word processing and those kind of things is done in Google Docs, but everybody has access to Microsoft Word. So here's an overview of our device refreshes, just to let you know where we are on everything. Elementary students currently have a Chromebook, whether that's Dell or Lenovo. K2 has Lenovo devices, 3.5 has Dell, and that was based on the availability of ordering around 2020, 2021. And so the refresh will happen for elementary students somewhere in the summer of 24 or 25. And you'll notice it's not specific because we don't send Chromebooks home with elementary school students. We're not exactly sure how long they're going to last. With all the devices we're sending home, they're on a 3-year cycle. A lot of the wear and tear often comes off campus from devices, and so we're not sure if we'll be able to get away with a 4-year refresh cycle on these Chromebooks instead of a 3-year. So we'll be evaluating that very closely. I'm sure Cindy prefers 4. Middle school students, they're getting the iPad with a keyboard, and then on a 3-year cycle with iPads would be summer of 2026. High school students have the M1 MacBook Air, the previous generation to this one, and they'll be up for a refresh after 3 years for next summer. And then teachers are just getting that M2 MacBook Air on a 3-year refresh cycle, which puts them up for refresh summer of 2026. I think that's all I have. Any other questions for me? I can say that Cleveland City Schools students and teachers have great devices, so I appreciate the board for the financial resources that you put into that and supporting them with their technology.
I don't know if this is better for Cody or better for the professional development people, but are we still offering continual professional development on innovative ways of using the technology as a teaching tool? Or I know we did it when we first implemented Light. Is it still being incorporated as part of the professional development on an ongoing basis?
So 6 through 12, they have a job-embedded professional development person, which would be their Blade facilitator, which is like the instructional facilitator, but specifically with an eye toward how do we best integrate technology into the classroom. So that is an all-day, everyday kind of resource that's there, meeting with teachers, co-teaching, those kind of things. In K-5, we continue to offer professional development for them and different PDs, although a lot of it tends to center on the curriculum that's provided, whether that be Amplify ELA or one of the different technologies.
Yeah, one of the things that's changed probably over the past several years is the digital platforms that our textbooks are providing. And so it doesn't require as much technical skill as much as like knowing how to access it, where you used to have to create a lot, and a lot of our teachers don't have it because we do have those digital resources. But we do have actually Mobile Minds as well as our platform for professional development where we log it, and they have several sessions on Google Sheets, Google Docs, those kind of things, so they can use those if they need some more technical pieces, and then we add in some additional things as we do surveys for professional development, say what do you need, and we put that out there so they can sign up for those kind of things too. But we are seeing, I don't want to say less of a need because it's not less of a need, but we do see that a lot of our curriculum right now and our textbooks provide a lot of what they need, so it doesn't require as much creation in that sense.
We also have to target a lot of new teachers to our district who may not be as familiar with a district giving everybody a laptop or all students have a device that they use. So you have to get targeted PDs and new teachers as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Cody. Next item on the agenda is site committee update.
Remind me, did we say vote first and then update?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we did have a site committee meeting where we discussed the renovation of the 775 Rated Drive building. And in order to continue with that progress, the site committee recommends approving the Upland Design Group LLC to perform architectural design of the 775 Raider Drive based on the schematic concepts, renderings, finish, colors, and budgetary limitations presented during the site committee meeting on May 23rd, 2023.
So, since this is coming as a recommendation from the site committee, all we need to do is have a second.
I don't even think it needs a second. Is that correct?
In the past, we've done a second and then a vote.
Okay.
So we have a second on this recommendation.
I'll second.
Have a second? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 100%.
Then I'll turn it over to you for some updates.
Sure, I just wanted to cover with you what we're doing this summer. I have one little change that just happened today for the meeting, but if we want to go to the next page. So this is what we're taking on this summer that we hope to have mostly done by the start of school. Arnold Memorial Elementary, we are in the process already of the kitchen renovation, the floor abatement, so they're getting a new serving line, new oven. The floor is getting removed, which it has some asbestos glue, so that's getting taken out, and the kitchen will also get painted. So hopefully it'll, with a few improvements we made a couple of years ago with dishwasher and so forth, the kitchen should be in really good shape going back into the school year. The parking lot renovation, unfortunately, we had no bidders show up today. We were very shocked about that. So that's going to put that off a little bit. We're actually going to contact the city and see if the city can maybe help us out through a city contract that they have with a asphalt company and see what we can do there. So we're not marking it off the list for the summer, but it is going to put us maybe a little later than what we had hoped. But we will still shoot for trying to get something done there. Blythe Bower Elementary, if you go by right now, they are already removing the tower down there, the cooling tower for replacement, and two very large pieces of equipment are being delivered. So that's already in the process. We will be installing rubber mulch on the playground this summer to get the playground up to standards in a much safer condition. And that will be done by our crew. Most of the things with an asterisk, as you can see, will be contractors, stuff that we oversee, and then the stuff not with an asterisk will be things actually done by the maintenance department. We have a small sinkhole. It was kind of unusual at Candy's Creek, and so we need to finish those repairs, mainly soil and some changing of soil and some additional topsoil this year out of Candy's Creek that we'll be taking on as well. Cleveland High School, we are working on the front entrance. Matter of fact, they're already sawing holes today in the walls for windows that you will see in the future of the CTE department. So we are continuing that. We hope to have all that done by August. The walk-in freezer, the original walk-in freezer from 1967, we are replacing at Cleveland High School. And that'll be done by the HVAC crew down at the maintenance department this year. We can go to the next page. Cleveland Middle School, there is a wall in the engineering lab that we will be working on to replace. We're replacing a different set of bathroom partitions every year, and so we'll be doing the 7th grade bathroom partitions this year. We have a water line that ruptured here toward the end of school. That line's ruptured before. We'll be replacing that water line as well here probably within the next week. And then we will be doing a HVAC replacement, partial HVAC replacement with ESSER funds that we'll be putting out to bid this summer. Don't know if we'll start it, but we will be getting a bid this summer. The Denning Center, we will be installing a new roof on. It's just to that point it's got to be done. And then Mayfield Elementary, we will be doing the boiler installation. We will also be pulling the gravel off
at Mayfield, standards have changed since that school was built. We have to have enough. We're going to use rubber mulch. We got to have enough mulch to handle impact if a student falls off of a piece of equipment, and the pebbles and gravel is no longer considered to give you enough protection. So we'll be pulling all the gravel or all the pebbles out of the Mayfield playground this year and replacing that with rubber mulch as well. And the rubber mulch should long-term help our elementaries economically. Rubber mulch will last and stay generally for 10 years compared to having to redo wood mulch every year. So I think in the long run that will be a much better economical situation for us. Next page there. Ross Elementary will be receiving a new oven, child nutrition. Cindy's has worked that out in the child nutrition department, a new serving line, and then we will be doing the ceiling tile replacement at Ross, and I think on down there you can see Yates as well, and a new oven at Yates. And I skipped Stewart. Stewart is receiving the kitchen window replacement this summer, so that's underway. At least the contractor is taking it on. He's getting everything ready to go. And then at the new AOB, we'll continue with renovations there. And at our department, we have a bus that most likely is going to have a new engine before next year. So our mechanics will purchase the engine, and then but we will replace the engine ourselves since we have qualified mechanics to do so. So that's our summary. That's what we look like for the next 2 months. And that's what we will be doing. So feel free to come down and join in. So.
Grab my hammer.
Do you get any vacation?
Oh yeah, no, my anniversary is right in the middle, so I want to keep my wife happy. So.
That's in the minutes now.
But any questions? That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is legislation update, and Carolyn Ingram had to step out, so we're going to consider our meeting adjourned at 3:31. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Meeting adjourned.